People called him the Scourge of God, a name that was meant to strike terror into the heart of an empire. But was Attila the Hun really just some brutal warlord, or was he a brilliant leader who literally changed the world forever? Let's get into the real story of one of history's most feared and maybe most misunderstood figures.
So that nickname has stuck for centuries. It's intense, right? It's like he was some kind of divine punishment sent down to shatter civilization. But who was the actual man behind that terrifying legend? Okay, so to really understand Attila, you first have to get a handle on his people, the Huns. Now, these guys weren't from Europe. They were this powerful, mysterious force that just swept in from the huge grassy plains of Central Asia, showing up in Europe in the 300s. And their arrival? It changed absolutely everything.
What made the Huns so incredibly different was that they were nomadic. So what does that even mean? Well, it means they didn't build cities, they didn't have permanent homes. Their entire society was always on the move, looking for new pastures for their animals and new resources. This made them unbelievably hard to predict and even harder to fight.
Think about it. They lived in tents, not stone buildings. They practically spent their entire lives on horseback, which made them some of the best cavalry riders in history. This mobility meant they were like a fast, unpredictable storm. As they moved west, they basically shoved other tribes out of their way, starting this massive domino effect of chaos and conflict all across Europe. And into this world, around the year 406, a future leader was born, Attila. He came from a powerful Hunnic family, so he was basically groomed for leadership from day one, learning how to ride and shoot with deadly skill. But right from the start, he had ambitions that went way beyond just leading a few raids.
At first, he didn't rule all by himself. He actually shared the throne with his older brother, Bleda. But it was pretty clear that Attila was the more ambitious one. And then one day, Bleda dies, under, let's just say, very mysterious circumstances. With his brother out of the picture, Attila became the one and only king of the Huns. Now that he had total control, Attila forged the Huns into the most feared army of their time. So let's break down exactly what made them so ridiculously effective on the battlefield. Their secret weapon was something called the composite bow, and this thing was a masterpiece of engineering for its time. Unlike a simple wooden bow, this one was made from layers of different materials: wood, animal horn, and sinew, all glued together. This design gave it incredible power and range, letting Hunnic archers just shred their enemies from a safe distance. And they used these amazing bows with some seriously clever tactics. Their signature move was the feigned retreat, the fake-out. They'd ride up, shower the enemy with a storm of arrows, and then pretend to run away. The enemy army, thinking, hey, we're winning, would break their formation and chase them. And that's exactly when the Huns would suddenly whip around, surround the now disorganized army, and just annihilate them. It was a perfect trap. But Attila wasn't just a warrior. He was a brilliant strategist. He figured out that he didn't always have to conquer territory. He could just use the threat of his army to get what he really wanted, which was money. Lots of it. So he turned his attention to the very wealthy Eastern Roman Empire, not to rule it, but to use it like his personal ATM. And we're talking about staggering amounts of money. Thousands of pounds of gold every single year. The Romans paid this enormous bribe just to keep Attila's armies from showing up and burning their cities to the ground. This is really where he cemented that Scourge of God reputation. To the terrified people of the Roman Empire, he was a nightmare. But here's a fascinating little detail about the man himself. Roman visitors who met him were shocked to see that while his guests were feasting off fancy silver plates, Attila himself ate from a plain old wooden one. It showed he was all about power and discipline, not flashy luxury. So, after years of terrorizing the Eastern Empire, Attila turned his gaze west, toward the other half of the Roman world. And this decision would lead to some of the biggest and most dramatic battles of the ancient world. And the excuse he used to invade, it's almost unbelievable. Get this, the Roman emperor's own sister, a woman named Honoria, had secretly sent Attila her ring. She was trying to get out of an arranged marriage. Well, Attila decided to interpret this as a marriage proposal to him. So in 451, he marches into Gaul, what we now call France, demanding half of the entire Western Empire as his wedding gift. This power move led to a massive showdown, the Battle of the Catalonian Plains. On one side, you had Attila leading his Huns and a huge coalition of tribes he'd already conquered.
And on the other side, a Roman general named Aetius had pulled together an unlikely alliance with his old enemies, the Visigoths.
The battle was incredibly brutal. Tens of thousands of soldiers died. And the result? For the very first time in his spectacular career, Attila the Hun was stopped. It wasn't exactly a defeat, but he couldn't break the Roman-Visigoth line, and he was forced to pull back. His reputation for being invincible was shattered.
But Attila was not a man who gave up. The very next year, he regrouped and smashed his way right into Italy, leaving a trail of pure destruction. But here's an amazing, unexpected consequence of his invasion. Refugees fleeing from his armies escaped into the marshy lagoons on the coast for safety. And the settlement they founded there? It eventually grew into the city of Venice.
Attila was at the absolute height of his power. He had brought both halves of the mighty Roman Empire to their knees, and his name was feared all across the known world. But his entire empire was really built on the shoulders of just one man, and that was about to become its greatest weakness.
Because in the year 453, while he was celebrating yet another wedding, the unthinkable happened. The most feared warrior on the planet died. Not in some epic battle, but in his bed.
And the way he died was just bizarre. Apparently, he had a severe nosebleed in his sleep and choked. His soldiers were so devastated, they didn't cry. Instead, they cut their own faces, mourning their king with their own blood. He was buried in secret, in a legendary set of 3 coffins. One of iron, inside another of silver, inside a third of solid gold. And to this day, no one knows where his tomb is. The second Attila was gone, the collapse was immediate and total. His sons immediately started fighting each other for control. The tribes he had conquered saw their chance, rose up in rebellion, and defeated the Huns in a huge battle just a year later. Without Attila's leadership holding everything together, the massive Hunnic Empire just vanished. Which really leaves us with this one final, powerful question. Attila's story is the ultimate proof that an empire can rise with one person and die right along with them. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How can the ambition, the genius, and the life of a single individual change the map of the world so completely?